This is Andi Purewal for ID Boxing. We are here in Manchester and I'm joined by David Higgins, manager to Joyce-Parker. David, firstly, how are you?
Good, thank you, and thanks for having us on here.
Appreciate you giving up some time, David. Obviously, we've got the workouts. Joe's just done his. You've got Joe Joyce in the ring now. Just talk me through the makings of this fight, David, because at one point it seemed like it was dead in the water, and all of a sudden it's back on, and here we are. Just talk me through your stance and how this fight all finally came to being concluded.
Yeah, well, it was hard to make the fight. It's been a long time, and it's finally on. The discussion started last year, and I think Joe Joyce was willing to fight Parker without a rematch clause initially, and then Parker was very dominant against Chisora and put him down 3 times, won the fight, and then the deal got harder. Then obviously they've said they won't do this fight without a rematch clause. So it was up to us to weigh that up, and we've decided that's the best option. Joyce-Parker's never shied away from risk, and so it's on. And it's a hard fight, probably many are saying a 50-50 fight. So we back Parker obviously, and Joyce, who knows.
Joe Joyce is known for having an engine, and he's somebody who we know can go quite hard in the later rounds. Is this something you're expecting to see from Joyce-Parker, where he's going to be up against it maybe in those later rounds, or how do you expect Joe to kind of counteract Joe Joyce's engine effectively?
Yeah, well, I think in terms of later rounds, Parker's got way more experience. So Parker's a veteran, 12 rounds with Carlos Takam, Andy Ruiz Jr., Anthony Joshua, Dillian White, Derek Chisora twice. With respect, Joe Joyce hasn't been 12 rounds with anyone of that calibre. So you could argue that it's Joyce that's going to be tested on the big stage in those later rounds.
Mentioning all of those fights there where Joe Parker's had to go the distance, is it a surprise to you where some people have questioned his engine in the later rounds?
Well, he's gone the distance many times, and he's out of more than 30 fights, he's only had 2 losses. So obviously he knows what he's doing in the later rounds. So I think that's and Joyce does have a great engine too. So it'll be fascinating. What
does Joe Parker have to do to win this fight on Saturday night?
I think just stay calm, cool, collected, be present, not panic under the pressure, stick to his game plan and pick off the shots. I mean, I think Parker's a lot faster than Joyce, more fleet-footed, more experienced, and he just has to stay calm and execute the plan.
Being the away fighter for this fight, David, do you have any concerns if it was to go to the cards?
There's always concerns when you're the away fighter and it goes to the cards, and we just hope that the officials will play a straight bat and call it as they see it.
If Joe wins this fight and you look at kind of the other top heavyweights he's fought in his career, whether he's been successful or not, where does this then place him? I know you've got that high WBO position on the line, but away from that, where does he rank? Where would you rank him then in the leading heavyweights in the division?
I think the winner of this fight could claim to be number 2 or top 3. Obviously you've got Tyson Fury, I think, is the best. Usyk could be. And then the winner of this fight's got to be up there. So I think this fight is number 1 contender versus number 2, and the winner can definitely claim to be proper elites, like in that top 3 or 4.
So you mentioned Tyson Fury. There's some talks of a potential fight between him and Anthony Joshua. I want to get your thoughts, David. Would you be not just up for that fight, but would you advise Anthony Joshua to take that fight? Because that's been a question people have asked.
I'll be impressed if he takes it. I think he's talked about wanting to fight Fury for a long time. I think there's a lot of risk aversion in the sport, and I think for Joshua to go into Fury would be a ballsy move and probably one of the biggest risks he's taken in his career. And he shouldn't necessarily be criticised for that. He might win, and it would certainly turn around his trajectory overnight. He's still a big guy, big puncher. He could win that fight. And so I think if both guys want the fight, it probably will happen, especially if the money's been agreed.
And then also another big fight which is being mentioned. Alexander Usyk said that he'd face Deontay-Wilder if Fury Joshua was to go ahead. Your thoughts if he was to see Usyk-Wilder?
I think Usyk will be all over him skill-wise. I don't think Wilder could win a round skill-wise. That being said, if Wilder gets lucky and lands a sledgehammer punch, he could knock Usyk out. So that's an interesting one. And Usyk probably wins, but you never know.
Just want to link back to Joyce-Parker as well, David. How much credit does he deserve throughout his career for the level of opposition he's been willing to throw himself in with? Obviously, the Andi Ruiz fight, Carlos Takam, you mentioned, Chisora twice at his, Dillian White, Anthony Joshua, of course. The list goes on. How much credit does he deserve for continuing to want to challenge himself against the best?
Well, you only have one career, and one day you'll retire and you look back and you either fought the best, you fought all comers, or you didn't and shied away from risk. And so you can't say that of Parker. He's definitely gone hard and fast and the biggest, riskiest fights possible, and so I think it's good for the sport. And Joe Joyce too is putting it on the line to some extent, and a lot of people have avoided Joe Joyce, so it should be a cracker of a fight on Saturday.
All right, David, we'll leave it there, and I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.